Welcome to video 4 in my series of videos about installing Windows 7 besides a pre-installed Windows 8. And now in this video I'll show you how to partition your hard drive in order to install Windows 7. There's one silly thing we need to look at, and this is we need to use the Windows tool to partition the hard drive. So we can format partitions with other tools, like we'll use mini tool and we'll use gparted later on as well. But the creation of the partitions, so the changing of the partition table where the partition information is stored, this is something we can just do inside Windows 8 and with this Windows tool, and the reason is that otherwise Windows 8 will not know the partition layout any longer, and then you'll not be able to use the troubleshoot options, so you can't boot into a command line, for example, and you'll not be able to restore your system again to the factory defaults as well. And because we do not want to lose these options, we'll use the Windows tools to create the partition. In order to open the Windows tool, we go to Control Panel, and then we go to System and Security. Then we scroll a little bit down. Then we go to Create and Format Partitions. Now it comes up here. And here we see our hard drive. And if you see more than this one hard drive here, then it's important that you select the hard drive you want to install Windows 7 on. And the first thing we do is we shrink the C drive so that we get space for Windows 7 and Ubuntu. Yeah, it takes a little time. Yeah. The first time now we shrink it by an amount of megabytes that depends on how much RAM you have. You should use a little bit more gigabytes than you have RAM. So as I have 4 gigabytes of RAM, I'll now free 5,000 megabytes. If you have 8 gigabytes, you should free 9 gigabytes. If you have 16 gigabytes of RAM, you should free 17 gigabytes. This will be important for our Linux installation. Now we'll shrink it, and then we make a right click on the black space here, which has come up now, and then we say New Volume, and now this assistant comes up. We click Go Further. We use all of the free space, and we don't need any drive letter for this. We don't need this volume to be formatted. Yeah, we'll format it with NTFS. We'll call it swap for our Linux installation. It'll be formatted again later, so it's not important, but just to keep it in mind what was what. Okay. Now we do the same thing again. We make a right click on the Windows 8 volume, then we shrink it here. And now when the menu has come up again, we type in 15,000, as we want to shrink it by 15 gigabytes. These 15 gigabytes will be the partition for Ubuntu. I found out that if you're not a special power user, then 15 gigabytes are more than enough for a Ubuntu installation. I would not use less because then you don't have any free space, but I think it's a good size. If you want to use another size, you can just shrink it by another size. Okay. Then we make a new right click on the black space, new volume, the assistant comes up. We don't want any drive letter here either. We call it Ubuntu. Now he'll format it. And now we need to free some space for the Windows 7 installation. I used 60 gigabytes, but if you want to use more or less, you can type in something else. So I'll type in, maybe not 60, but 62,000 megabytes. Now it'll get shrinked. And then we get inside here, go to new volume. It shall take all the free space now again. And now we want a drive letter. And we name the volume Windows 7. Now it'll create that partition as well. Okay, now it has opened, but we'll close it again. We'll need that later. And now we can close the disk management. Okay, now we need to create a medium to install Windows 7. And I'll use a USB stick. So I'll copy the Windows 7 installation from the virtual hard disk to the USB stick. And in order to do that, we'll download a partitioning tool. And then we Google mini tool partition wizard. And then it comes up. Here it is the third entry. Click free download. Then it leads us to CNET. Okay, then we'll download it here. Then it gets downloaded. Okay. Now it has finished and we can just execute download. In order to install it, we just install it like every other program. And then we launch mini tool partition wizard. Now we click here, partition wizard. The partition wizard comes up. Then we see here my USB drive. And here we see the hard disk which we have connected from VirtualBox. That is F. And now the first thing we need to do is we need to make a little bit space on the USB drive. So we'll shrink the partition. I have 32 gigabytes and I will shrink the partition as I have only used 1 gigabyte and a little bit to 2.5 gigabyte. Now I have 27 gigabytes unallocated, and there I can copy the Windows 7 partition. Just select it here, disk 2, free space, and now I can copy it. And then I just click apply. It'll take a little bit, but yeah. Now he copies all the files, and we'll see each other again when now partition wizard has finished. And just click here and then close it. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to disable fast boot, as dual boot is not possible with fast boot enabled. For that we open control panel, then go to hardware and sound, energy options. Then here we click what shall happen when the laptop gets closed. Now when we're in here, we scroll down and then we disable fast boot. That's very important in order to dual boot. And you can enable hibernate. I'll do that, but it's up to you. That's it.